Okay, so in this video we are going to upload some sample data to our database so that we have some amount of data to play around with our application and to build this application, right? So we need to have some data, so we are going to seed some data, upload some properties onto our database and also some amount of users. Okay, so let's get started with this video. Okay, so in the last video we have already created the schema for our property and our users, okay, and also for the images that is related to the property. Okay, so if you haven't watched that, you can please watch that video. And so now the first step is we need to install Prisma client. Okay, so in the previous video we just installed Prisma, which is for the backend. Okay, so that is for creating models and for our migrations. Okay, so in order to interact with backend, so we need a Prisma client. Okay, so let's open our terminal and install that package. Okay, npm install @ Prisma /client. All right, so if I hit enter, so that's gonna install. So once that's installed, we can go ahead and set up our Prisma client. Okay, so within the root of our project, we can just create a folder called db, and inside the db I'm going to create a file called index.ts. Okay, so in this file I'm going to first of all import the Prisma client. Okay, so import something from @Prisma/client. Okay, so we are going to destructure the Prisma client. Okay, so you also get some suggestions once you install this package. Okay, so only thing we are going to do is we are going to export a variable, okay, which uses this Prisma client. Okay, so that we don't have to initialize Prisma client in every file that we want to make a database action. So let's export a variable called db. Okay, and so const db, and set this equal to we need to call the constructor of the Prisma client. So new Prisma client, like so, and we don't have to pass in anything. So this will create an instance of the Prisma client and will store in this variable. Okay, and only thing is we are just exporting that. Okay, as simple as that, so nothing complex so far. So now we just need to create a file so that when we run a command to run that file, all of our existing data will get imported, or if you want, you can also destroy the data. Okay, so let us create that file now. So before that, we need to have some amount of sample data so that we can upload that to our database. Okay, so to get the sample data, you can reach out to my Git repository for this project. Okay, which you can also find within the description of this video, and by there you can go ahead and grab all the data for the upload that we are going to make. Okay, so I'll just copy that. Now let me just paste that in. So it is in the folder called data, and inside data we have two files. One is for the properties and one is for the users. Okay, so in the properties, it is just as we have defined within the Prisma file. Okay, the model that we have created with all the particular fields. Okay, so this is, we have like about 8 properties, and we have some dummy image URLs. Okay, so all of this image URLs are from Cloudinary, and those are actually coming through mine. Okay, so later I will also be changing it, and yeah, so later you can replace this with your actual Cloudinary images. Okay, when I come to that video, I will explain what Cloudinary is and how it makes storing images and accessing them very easy. All right, so this is for properties, and also we have some 3 users. Okay, so these are some fake users like John Doe, Jane Smith, and Emily Davis. So these are 3 users, so you don't have to worry much about it. So you can just copy and paste it, and now we are going to create a seeder file so that we can import data by the run of a command. Okay, so now let's go to the db folder and let's create a file called seeder.ts. okay, over here first of all I'm going to import the Prisma client. As I told you, this is running through the client side. Okay, so doing some kind of database actions, and using this we can perform just like how you are using Mongoose, like for MongoDB, we will also be using this Prisma client. Okay, so we are going to first of all import that. So it was import db okay, db from the file that we created. Okay, so where is that? Maybe I need to destructure db. Okay, so that is coming from our index.ts. okay, so that is coming from dot, and that is within the current level, okay, file structure. And then now we are going to import the properties that properties from @data/properties.json. okay, so make sure the json extension is available, otherwise it will be treated as js file. And now let's create a function such that if we run this function, it will import all the data. So const import data, and set this equal to an async function. Since all the operations that we deal with Prisma are asynchronous, so we need to make this a function async. okay, so within that we are going to open our try catch block, since it returns a promise. All right, so within the try block, we are first of all going to delete whatever the data that we have in our database, okay, related to the property, or even for the users for that matter. okay, so let's await the db dot property dot delete many. okay, so delete many is we have a delete, so this will only delete one item, and we need to pass in the id of that or anything. So delete many will delete like everything what is there within this table, okay, called the properties table. We are now going to use images. okay, so the images that we created in the last video for the Prisma, okay, model images. And yeah, so now once that's done, we need to import our data. So let us run a for loop, okay, so that we can get all the properties one by one within this array that we created within this properties.json. so this is going to be a for loop. So for const property of properties, okay, so we're using a for of loop, okay, properties, and within this, for each property we are going to store it to the database. So we are going to make a create operation. So first we need to assign the owner of this particular property to one of the users that we have within this users.json file. okay, so let's create that first. okay, so let owner, okay, is equal to await Prisma, sorry, the db dot user dot find unique. okay, so we are going to find by unique where the email. okay, so we have a email for every user, right? So if that email is equal to this property dot owner dot email, okay, so I have assigned the email for every property. So for the owner, okay, so who's the owner of this property, the name and the email. okay, so that's what we are actually finding. So find unique where, so this is a where clause where we need to specify the attribute name, that is email, and what is that is coming from property dot user dot create. okay, so we are going to property dot owner dot, so that is property dot owner dot email. okay, so that is basically this email. okay, so property dot owner dot email, and once the owner is found, then we are going to assign that to the property and push it to the database. okay, so let's check if also the owner doesn't exist. So if no owner, then we are going to create that owner. okay, so so because that we are going to find that in the database, right? So initially we are deleting, we do not have any users, so right, so that is why we are going to create that owner one by one. So owner, let's create that variable. okay, is equal to await, that is db dot user dot create. okay, so this will not create many, so this we are just creating one instance of a user in our database, so that's why it's singular. And the data, we are going to specify that as the username that we specify. okay, all this you will get as suggestions, since we are using also TypeScript, and Prisma is a TypeScript framework, and you will also get suggestions according to that. okay, so let's put that property dot owner dot username. okay, and yeah, So and also we need the email. Okay, property dot owner dot email. Okay, so that's done. And yeah, so our owner will be created. So if it doesn't exist, then it will create, otherwise it will directly go to the next block of our code. Okay, so once the user is created, we are going to create the property. Okay, so let's await db.property.create. Okay, sorry about my throat, guys. My throat is spoiled for today. Okay, so and then we have the data, and we are going to specify all the properties of the record that we have. Okay, so for every property, since we are we are running a for loop, we have this property, so we are going to spread across all the values of the property, and then we are going to specify a few other attributes. Okay, so which are actually we need to modify them a little bit, like the available from. Okay, so this is actually coming from a date field. Okay, so we need to specify that as new date, and we need to pass in the property dot available from. Okay, so this needs to be in the form of date. Okay, so that's why we are doing it separately like this. So available from, and then we are going to type in the owner ID. Okay, we just need to specify the ID of the owner and not the entire owner object itself. Okay, so that is going to be the owner.id. Okay, so this particular owner property, and then we have the images. Okay, so for the images we are going to run a map. Okay, so for every image, the URL we are going to store it within the images table. Okay, and we are going to link that ID to the property ID. Okay, so that we can get to know which, for this particular image, which property is it associated to. Okay, so that's what we are going to do in this. So images, and that is going to be we are going to run a create method on this, and that is coming from property dot images dot map. Okay, since this is an array, we can run a map for this. So for every image, we are going to return an object with the URL property by the image dot URL. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm using an implicit return, and within that let's specify the URL. Okay, and this is going to be within the object and image dot URL. Okay, I hope that made sense. And yeah, so are we getting, I think we are getting some errors. Okay, so actually there is some type mismatch. I just need to find out, and this is we just need to specify a comma here, and yeah, so that's looking good. And maybe there's some typo I made, I guess, from the last video. I just need to check it out. Okay, so that's why we are getting this mismatch of property names. Okay, so it says that type username string and email string is not assignable to type undefined. So I just made a typo here in the last video within our schema.prisma file. So it is called as property type and not property type. Okay, so something I just made a mistake, and now we just by saving the file, it doesn't do anything. So we need to migrate this file once again, just like we did in the previous video. Okay, so let's open our terminal and run the following command. So that is npx prisma migrate dev. Okay, so once we hit enter, so it's going to ask us for the name of our new migrations, like let's say fixed typo, and hit enter. So that will create a new migration within our migrations folder. Okay, you see that we have a new migrations here. So this will update the existing migration that we had from our previous one. Okay, so that is done. Now we need to check what is the problem with this data. So in the last video, actually I forgot to assign the user table to the property table. So I forgot to map that. So you see that we do not have a record for property. Okay, so which property, which all property like the user has created, right? So let's do that. So I apologize for that. Like, you know, sometimes while I talk and I type, I forget some things. Okay, so just I'm sorry for that. So property, we can just define that type here and the attribute, and assign this to the property table like so. And here we get a conflict, right? So we also have saved properties, and as well as we are mapping the properties. Okay, so these are actually ambiguous, so we just need to solve the ambiguity. So we need to specify a particular name for this relation. Okay, so what is it exactly matching from the property table. Okay, so let's give this a relation, and we just need to provide this in a form of a string. Okay, so we can just say this user saved property. Okay, and this one we can just leave it as it is. Okay, so should we leave it as it is, or yeah, we can leave it as it is. And now we can go to the property table and we can set up another attribute. So it is saved by, so this property is saved by like which all users. Okay, so that is going to be a user array of users, and we need to also define the relation of that. Okay, so again the same one, we just need to like copy paste this like so. So this will fix the issue. Okay, so once that's done, don't forget to migrate your file. So npx prisma migrate dev. So let's provide the name of our migration, like property assigned to user, or user assigned to property, whatever. So once that's done, and now we should see that error should be gone, but still it persists. Okay, so maybe this is a different kind of error. So it's giving still the same error. Okay. So the issue was some properties within the property object were not in of the type that we defined in our Prisma schema. Okay, so if I just spread across, instead of spreading across whatever we have from a property object, and if I just pick them line by line like so, and you see that we are getting some type mismatch. Okay, so this is of the type string, and we and this property type is expecting type of this type that we defined within our schema.prisma. Okay, so this particular enum type. So to fix this issue, what we can do is we can just assign we can just use type inference from TypeScript, and we can just import the type. Okay, the type from Prisma. Okay, so please don't get confused from the type. Okay, so both are actually the same. So you see that you get suggestions, and we can directly auto import. You can just see like it also gives us some suggestions, and once that's done, you see that error is disappeared. Okay, so now this is of the type. Okay, again, and you see that we have imported the type. Okay, and let's do the same even for the bhk parking and all of these enum values. Okay, as bhk, I know this is some like extra lines of code that we are writing, but this is how TypeScript actually works. Okay, so it also helps us to save us from bugs. Okay, so that is why we are actually being saved over here instead of like being assigned to some other type. Okay, so this is of the type parking that we defined, and the same for preferred tenants. Alright, and the last for the property type. Okay, as property type. Alright, so all the errors have gone. Now we can just move on to the next process. Okay, so yeah, so it took me some time to figure out, so that's why I'm recording this the next day, and my hair is also like looking good right now. Okay, so next is we are going to, after this for loop, we can add in a console log saying that data is imported successfully. Okay, so like so, and we need to exit the process. Okay, so process dot exit. Okay, and we need to pass in 0 inside this. Okay, so if we don't do this, this file will keep running. Okay, so it won't stop, so that's why we need to exit that. So when we run the this file within the command line, so okay, so it will always keep looking for changes, right? So we need to exit that, and once there is any error, we need to catch it, right? So console.error, we can just say that error importing properties, and we can just pass in the error itself, and then we need to exit the process, but this time with process.exit. Okay, and inside that we are passing 1, which means that it has exited not in a good manner or with an error. Okay, so I guess we are done for import data. Now we need to do for the destroy data. Okay, so only thing is we need to pass in a flag of -d within our command line, which will understand that this is a delete operation. Okay, so that we are going to apply the logic for that, and we can just check that within the if block. Okay, so we are going to check that if process, okay, this process object itself, which is basically built in Node.js, which you can access .argv. Okay, so you can just get some suggestions over here, so which is actually an array which will give you all of that. If you want, you can just console log and just have a look, and we can just see that if it includes the character of -d. Okay, so -d, and if this is true, we are going to delete everything that we actually have within our database. Okay, so this is a destructive action. Okay, by the way, so this will delete all your data, but anyways, we can also import the data by running this particular function. Okay, so we can now say db.property.delete many. Okay, so this will delete everything. Okay, so if you don't pass in anything, this will delete all, and then we need to also delete the users. Okay, so instead of using async await, so I need to create another function and mark that as async. So we can just use the then syntax. Okay, so the chaining the syntax, I don't know what do you call that. So dot then, and then this will a callback function, and this will actually run the db dot users dot user dot delete many. Okay, so this will delete all the users. Okay, so this function will be run as soon as this function has returned. Okay, so this db dot property dot delete many, which is a promise, and once this is completed, then it will go to this callback function, and after that, then we are going to like finally console log that data is destroyed. Okay, so we can then chain in another then method, and let's say console.log data deleted successfully. All right, and maybe I can give an exclamation mark. All right, and then we can exit the process. Okay, so I can just write this inside a block so that I can add in another statement here. So process dot exit of 0, which means exited in the right way, and once I save this, this will auto format if you have Prettier installed, and after that, if there's anything went wrong, we can just go to this catch block. Okay, so this catch, which will receive the error, and then we can actually console log the error itself. Okay, so saying that error destroying data, and then we can just show in the error itself. All right, so I guess that's done, and maybe we need to also exit the process. With 1. Okay, so it exited with an error, and yeah, so everything looks good. So now we need to handle the else case, right? So what is the else case? Yeah, you guessed it, it is import data. Okay, so import data, the function itself we are calling. Okay, so yeah, so everything looks good. So I guess now it's the time to test if actually by running this file it actually imports to our data or not, to our database or not, and we are going to check that. So now we can go to our package.json, and over there we can create a script, okay, to import the data or destroy the data. Okay, so we can go to our script here, and within the scripts block we can just pass in the key like data colon import. Okay, so by the run of a command like npm run data colon import, this particular command, the value of it will actually run. Okay, so we need to run node, and then the path to this cedar.ts file. Okay, so that is from db/cedar cedar.ts, right? So that's the thing. And also the same if we want to destroy the data. Okay, and remember we need to pass in the flag of -t to destroy the data. And let's give the comma here, and let's replace this with data colon destroy. And here we need to run data node db/cedar.ts with a flag of -t. Okay, so this is the argv of the second argument that we actually used over here. Okay, so here, so with that done, we can now open our command line and we can just run this particular script to import the data. So npm run data colon import. Hopefully it works. Let's check it out. Okay, my bad. I actually wanted to use the ES modules, but I'm using the common JS modules, right? So that's why it's giving me this. So let me just fix this quickly. So since I'm running the node command, so that's why we need to, by default it is like common JS modules. Okay, so if you want to like explicitly mention that this should be of type module, like the ES modules, so you need to go to your like package.json and write in a type of module. Okay, like so you see that we get some either common JS or of type module. Okay, or of type module. Okay, so once we save that and we try to run this command once again, it should probably work. Unknown file extension .ts. So in order to run this TypeScript file, we need to install a package, okay, called tsx. Okay, so since we are in the client side, okay, so this is running on the client side, right? So we need to also install that tsx package. Okay, so if you're running on the backend side, so you need to install something called as ts node if you're running through a node command. Okay, so actually this is since the client side, since we are also like using Prisma client here, right? So this node command actually won't work. So I just realized that, and we just need to change this to tsx and then this package, the path of your file. Okay, so now we need to first of all install that thing. Okay, so npm install tsx, which I'm going to install as a dev dependency, and hit enter. So once that's done, I can just run the following command, that is npm run data import. So hopefully this should work. Okay, so yeah, so we get an error saying that unique constraint failed for image property id. So sorry, I just made another mistake in my images model over here. So I set this property ID to be unique. Okay, so this need not have to be unique because property can have multiple images related to that property, right? So they can, they don't have to be unique, right? So the property ID could be the same also, which means that two images are related to the same property. So this is like a one-to-many relationship. Okay, so that's the reason. So I just got confused in the deep, so sorry for that. So let's again migrate our database with the updated schema. So npx prisma migrate dev. Okay, so once you have applied the migration, you can retry this once again, like npm run data import. Once I hit enter, yeah, so now our data is imported successfully. Okay, so now if we go back to our SQL workbench, we should be able to see the data being imported over there. Okay, so if I open my MySQL workbench and try to query all the properties over here, okay, so you see that we get all the different properties being uploaded to our database. Okay, with all the columns that we defined in our schema. All right, so you see that created at and updated at is at the current timestamp as I'm recording this video. And yeah, so everything looks good right now. And for some reason I was just trying and testing for some different properties. So that's why we are not getting this ID from the number 1. Okay, so let's also check the users. Okay, so the users also have been imported, and yeah, so that's it. And also there are images as well. Okay, So these are the different images that are linked to the property ID. Okay, so these are all the images for each property ID, which are like 2 images. Okay, so that's it. So let's also try for destroying the data. Okay, so npm run data :destroy. So this should destroy all the data from our database. So again, if we try to query the data, the tables, okay, so we get an empty record. Okay, so also the same for property and the users. So everything seems to be working fine. Okay, so that's it for this video. So in the next video we are going to get started starting to use this data and loop across all the different properties, and we are going to display them in the form of cards. Okay, just like the how I showed you in the demo. Okay, so let's get started on that next. Okay, so let me just import the data back by running npm run data import. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. So in the next video, of course, we'll be again going back to the UI and start listing out all the properties. Okay, so see you then.